I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumet Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today we're talking about overgeneralization. Okay, this is another one of the cognitive distortions of anxiety. So when we overgeneralize, we make a specific rule. Okay, it's a specific repeated pattern of defeat that shows up again and again and again. And we're doing this through our language. It's in the coding of the language that sets up the frame of that reality. Okay? A frame is the way that you see reality. Overgeneralization is using the terms always and never. When you notice yourself using these terms, you'll start to see the pattern of your overgeneralization show up. And that's when you can catch it. So first of all, it's important to understand that one event does not make it a golden rule that keeps repeating. Okay, it does not make it a repeating pattern. It's our choice that makes it a repeating pattern over and over again. We use overgeneralization to try and understand the world because we're ignorant about the world, because the world is a very complex place at times, and we need certain rules that we make generally that help us to stereotype or to generalize certain situations. And this makes understanding the world a little bit easier. However, at the same time, what you're doing, you're advocating prejudice, right? You're advocating dogma in your thinking. So there's a lot of cultural conditioning that is being portrayed. But that's already a cognitive distortion to begin with. You see that? If you think that the idea that the world is a cruel place and a very complicated place, you are going to create the reality that, I need it to be easier through all of these heuristics and rules. However, if the world was automatically an easy place and that was the frame that we'd already set up, we could easily use it. However, the problem is this is an unconscious process, right? So when we overgeneralize, we're creating a rule out of nothingness. We're creating a rule saying this always happens. Right? This always happens to me. Why me instead of try me, which is a forward momentum energy. Why me, which is a victim blaming energy of pointing your fingers at yourself and self-blaming. For example, I always get Cheetos stuck to my clothes. I always, right? Always. This is setting up a rule that in the future this will happen to you again, because you're using the word always, implying that it's going to happen over and over again forever. You can also distort and generalize the future, like, oh man, I'll never get a girlfriend, I'll never get a boyfriend, right? And so you got to understand that one event does not create one rule that keeps repeating. Okay? Just because you have a bad experience with one guy doesn't mean that all men are bad. Okay? This is another example. Right? Man, women are crazy. All women? No, that's overgeneralization, okay? So let's say that you write a typo in an essay wrong, and you say, I never do anything correctly. However, that morning you tied your shoes correctly, you did 7 or 8 things correctly. That one mistake, if you can stop your mind and tell yourself, okay, I made one mistake, but I did 7 or 8 things correctly today. Right? That is more realistic than you saying, I never do anything correctly. That statement by itself is an impossible statement, I never do anything correctly. Unless you want it to be a rule, that's the thing, right? If you want it to be a rule for your life and it doesn't have to be true, but you say always, if you want to get there on time, let's say you can say, man, I always get here on time. Okay? That's good, because you are using the overgeneralization consciously. Overgeneralization is a problem when it's happening unconsciously, when you don't know that you're doing it. When you're aware that it's happening, you have it under control. If you don't know that it's happening and it's happening unconsciously and you're saying that statement out loud without even knowing that you're saying it, it's just an automatic, thing. That's when it starts to screw you up as a cognitive distortion. Because cognitive distortions are inaccurate statements or inaccurate thinking, essentially, right? Let's say you say, I'm never on time for anything, I'm such a screw up. I'm never on time for anything. Is this overgeneralization? I'm such a screw up because of that is, again, you're creating a general rule for your defeat, but also that's more of the all or nothing thinking that I talked about in the previous video. So if you haven't watched the previous videos on this topic, I highly recommend you check out all of them in the series, okay? Why is it that this always happens to my car? Right? That would be an overgeneralization. You're not the only person in the universe, buddy, okay? The universe isn't out to get you and only you, okay? That's kind of selfish to think about that as well. Like the universe is only there to make your life bad and miserable and everybody else is happy. No. That's some kind of paranoid, idea. And someone sold you that reality, so you gotta break yourself out of that. Like, who sold me that reality? How can I reframe this and rewrite this reality? Because it's not true. All or nothing thinking before this was defining yourself as a success or a failure, whereas overgeneralization is one negative event that happens as a never-ending cycle or a never-ending pattern of defeat. When you see yourself creating this through the spells, that's why it's called spelling, magic spells, you see yourself saying it like, man, I always do that. I would just stop and question yourself. Always? Never? Even do it with your friends. Call them out on their overgeneralizations, because it's really going to be useful for you to slow down and just correct yourself. If humans had an autocorrect without human error, that would be so beneficial, right? If we could have an autocorrect for our own language and the way that we speak to ourselves in our own self-talk, that would be ideal in terms of guiding us towards the reality that we actually do want to create. The thing with overgeneralization is just to spot it. Okay, when you can spot it in yourself and you can rewrite it, or you can spot it even before you say it, you get less reactive and more proactive with it, you can really start to shape it to the way that you want the reality to be, or the frame to be in that moment, okay? Notice when your inner critic wants to beat you up in your own mind, right? Notice when it's like, oh man, I never do anything right. Essentially, what you want to be doing in terms of when overgeneralization kicks in is notice it for the ridiculousness that it presents itself with, and then from there, you want to actively reframe the certain words like always and never to find the very unique example of the fact is that you're going to have to find evidence, you're going to have to find proof in order for you to prove these statements wrong. Like, imagine if the Joker had, instead of why so serious, he wrote why always serious. That'd be a little bit strange. Right, so similarly for you, if you're saying always and never, it's kind of creating this strange rule for you that you might not even want to follow. Now, of course, some of these rules and ideas and theories and techniques might not apply to you very directly. Maybe you have a different issue in regards to overgeneralization or in regards to anxiety or anything that you might be going through. So for more personalized and customized help, reach out to me on Instagram at Flowzone Academy, or shoot me an email at sumedflowcoach@gmail.com, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions. Also, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll make a video on that topic in regards to any kind of mental well-being topic, spirituality, flow state. You guys know what this channel is about, so I would be happy to give you the value that you need in order for you to thrive and be in the zone. Okay, this is what this channel is about. So, and also, if you haven't done so already, join the Telegram group. We're waiting for you. Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. See you next time.